just dive right in.
Okay.
So first, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself?
I grew up in a small town, or not really a small town, it's more of the suburbs of Kansas City on the Missouri side in Liberty, Missouri. And then I moved halfway through high school to Lansing, Kansas because my dad got a new job. So I'm kind of familiar with the Kansas City area, Missouri and Kansas side. I grew up with three brothers, two younger, one older, all athletes. My younger brother currently plays football at Iowa. And both my parents played college sports. That's why I got into sports in general, just being surrounded by it. My grandma was a first-generation immigrant on my dad's side. She's from South Korea, and so she came over during the Vietnam War she came over, and so I think that's a cool part of who I am. Originally played volleyball at the University of Kansas, and I transferred halfway through my sophomore year to the University of Wisconsin, and currently I'm competing in my 5th year right now.
Very cool. Just going back to your family all playing sports, did you ever feel that sort of pressure to play sports, or you just always enjoyed volleyball so it wasn't a problem at all?
I think being the only girl in the family surrounded by three brothers made it really competitive, and I felt like I just always wanted to beat them in everything, so sports was just something to unleash that on them, and so I feel like that shared bond with siblings of competitiveness and the love of sports, and then obviously having your parents bring that on you is I think awesome. I don't think I felt much pressure, but it was very competitive in my household.
Did you play other sports until you found volleyball as your passion, or have you always just been gravitated towards volleyball?
I actually didn't want to play college volleyball. I grew up as the biggest college softball fan. I played softball throughout high school. I wanted to play my dream school was obviously University of Oklahoma. It's an amazing program, but I played softball in high school, I played basketball, and I ran track as well. So I played 4 sports in high school.
And why did you decide on volleyball for college?
I started getting into high-level competitive volleyball my freshman year, and I felt like I had never seen anything like it before, and it was the thrill of the game and the feeling of the game. It was just so much different to any other sport I had played, and I just fell in love with it.
Yeah, how do you take that, obviously you said you fell in love with it, but that drive and motivation to just keep playing, and do you ever miss, other sports, or are you really happy with where you're at?
Of course I miss other sports sometimes, but then I realize, I play in indoor sports, that's also nice.
Yeah.
But I would say strive, honestly, it's hard to explain if you're not in the sport itself, but there's just this feeling when you're playing and you stuff someone, or there's a long rally and your team wins the point. I can't describe it, but it's the best feeling in the world. So trying to compete and get better just to feel that, I think is my drive and motivation.
Who is your personal inspiration?
I'd probably have to say my parents. I would say someone that's a half Asian household, there's a lot of discipline growing up, and my dad was also in the military. So I think they were very strict on us, but I'm thankful for that. And I feel like they've sacrificed a lot of things along the way for not only myself, but my siblings to be able to play the sports we love and do the things we want to do. So just trying to also play for them and realize where I am now is because of them.
That's awesome. I know you mentioned your grandma earlier. Is she the hero in your story, if you were to pick someone?
I would say she's probably one of them. The older I get, the more wise you get, and so I feel the more I dive into that culture and just wanting to learn more about it, because I feel I wasn't as immersed in it as a kid, so I feel just being able to connect with her all the time and try and learn new things, I think is so exciting for me.
How was it growing up in a half Asian household? What was the difference in your household that really stuck out to you?
I would say discipline. I feel there were a lot of things that kids got away with my age that I would have never gotten away with. Mm-hmm. I also feel food-wise, there's a difference. I would say majority of the time, 4 or 5 times out of the week, we always had rice as a side dish, and anything we ate. And a lot of people are used to that, or just having rice in general all the time. So I feel those are the big differences, I would say.
Yeah. Did you notice anything outside of the household? People treating you differently, anything like that growing up?
Yeah, I would say it's challenging as someone that's considered Wasian, part white, part Asian, because you're not Asian enough to be Asian, but you're not white enough to be white. So it's you're in this in between where you don't really quite feel like you fit into either category. Myself, I haven't really personally experienced a lot of like racism, but my siblings have. Surprisingly, I know growing up a few things were said to them just by the way they look, and so that's really frustrating, obviously, in today's day and age to hear about those things.
Is there anything personally that you do to kind of, or like anything you follow, kind of like looking at half households and seeing that, and do you ever like relate to something more or try to help out if other people come to you, or you just haven't had that much experience in talking with others who are like, you know?
I actually got my first experience this year. So we have 2 freshmen that are also Asian. So like being able to talk to them and connect and actually like they understand me, I think has been the most exciting thing this season so far. Being able to connect wise. But I would say outside of that, something that I just follow in general in life is I'm religious, so I rely a lot on my faith when it comes to crossroads in my life and things that I struggle with. So
That's really awesome. Do you see yourself as like almost like a leader to the 2 younger girls who have the same background as you, and do you feel like a little bit of responsibility towards them just to make them feel like welcome on the team?
yeah, for sure. Of course. I mean, I'm a 5th-year senior and they're
Right.
just in the program, so I feel like I try to show them the ropes, but I also try to show that it's okay to be yourself and it's okay to want to embrace the culture. Even if you're only 25% of something, it's okay to totally dive into that and show that that's part of your heritage. I think is something so unique.
What has been your biggest lesson as a student athlete? Because all your life you played sports, you've been in school, obviously you've been very busy. Just what has been your biggest takeaway from that?
Honestly, I would say you are more than an athlete. I feel like a lot of athletes put their own identity in their sport and how they perform. And it's something I still struggle with today, is trying to realize that like my identity is not placed on how I play and the stat line and how people see me. For me, my identity is in my faith, and so I feel like that's the biggest struggle with athletes in general, is just putting their identity in how they play when really they're more than just their sport.
Yeah, of course. Have you always been religious your whole life, or did it come to you, or have you been raised that way?
Yeah, I was raised Christian. I went to church and all the big holidays. I would say I struggled just because with sports, you play on a lot of weekends, so I missed a lot of functions. But I would say I really dove into my faith my freshman, sophomore year of college. I didn't quite feel like I fit in. I had a lot of teammates at the time that were like, oh, just come join us at church. And so I feel like that's kind of how I dove more into it, I would say.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's really cool that you have like a community surrounding you that has a religious background as well to kind of help you through that.
Yeah.
What do you believe is like the most important relationship in any person's life?
I would say there's 2. The first, I would say, is with a parent, because I feel like with either parent, mom or dad, or whoever else is your parent, you grow up as their child, but then you become their friend. And I feel like that's something that I've realized growing up, is that they've raised me, but now I can communicate them into a friend-like way where we have a different relationship that's more of a deeper connection, and I can share things that, with my parents, I have such a good bond, and I can share things with them that most kids my age would feel uncomfortable sharing with their parents.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that is a big relationship that I find in my own life that's important. Is, you know, if something's going wrong, just being able to call immediately and they're there for me. The second relationship is, in my opinion, based on my religion, is a relationship with Jesus. I feel like that is something that I think is number 1 in my opinion.
Yeah, awesome. How has your relationship with your teammates differ from that? Obviously, you've grown and trust each other more, but would you say there was like a switch almost in all your years of playing, that you just grew closer with your teammates, either a bonding moment or any part of your volleyball career where you really connected like with the girls on your team?
Yeah, I don't think you can truly trust your teammates on the court unless you trust them off. And so I feel like our team this year, we've been able to connect over numerous years on outside functions, whether it's birthday parties, tough relationship advice, things going on in your family that we can just sit down and connect with outside of sport. I think is really what builds the trust and true friendship, to be able to have that on the court. And I feel like all those moments combined just increase that amount.
Yeah. Would you say being an athlete and being in school, but it sounds like you've done it your whole life, like how do you organize all that, all your priorities and what you have to do and, you know, your religion and keeping up with your faith, school and everything? Do you have like, is there like a system to it, or you're just so used to it that that's just kind of your life?
Simple answer is Google Calendar. So I always put every single like school function, assignment, exam immediately in there before the school starts. Every single practice, game. Even if I'm meeting a friend for coffee and we just planned it, I put it in my calendar so I automatically never forget. Honestly, that's like the best thing that's worked for me on prioritizing time, because as an athlete it's so hard. And with Google Calendar, it's electronic, so you can look it on your iPad, your iPhone, your laptop. But I would say also just being able to realize that like when people ask to hang out or do things, it's okay also to say no, to prioritize yourself and your own time.
What do you do in your own time? How do you prioritize yourself?
I love reading, so I love reading books. I also love watching K-dramas, Korean dramas on Netflix.
Oh, that's awesome.
So those are, or just Netflix TV shows in general. So I like to do that and just chill out. I like to try new foods, try new coffee shops, just explore. So, yeah.
Very cool. How do you prepare for game day? Mentally, physically? Is there any rituals you have before game day?
I would say I try and stay off my phone as much as possible. There's a lot of outside noise and influence that I feel like can affect people before they play. So I try and stay off social media. I really like to listen to music, so majority of the day I have my earbuds in, trying to zone everything out. Even before like our pre-match serve and pass, when everyone else is warming up before I even get on the court to start, I have my earbuds in, zoning everything out. So I feel like just kind of like losing myself in music is the biggest thing for me to get pumped. So
that's awesome. What kind of music do you usually listen to?
Well, on game days it's usually rap, so it's a mixture of 21 Savage, Future, Metro, all of those big names, because I feel like that's what gets me amped on game days.
Very cool. Would you say, like, while you're playing or just watching a sport in general, do you get really amped up when, like, the fans make a lot of noise and get you going? Or, like, if you're on the court, like, you're not paying attention to them at all?
I would say sometimes I hear the fans, especially in big matches, but majority of the time they're zoned out. I can't really hear them as much. I'm trying to focus on who I can hear next to me on the court. I would say after big plays, if we're playing in front of a home crowd, I can usually hear how loud it is, but majority of the time I'm not paying attention.
Has fashion ever influenced like your self-expression?
I would say during season I feel like I give like Adam Sandler vibes. I usually throw on what's something oversized and something comfy, so it's usually an oversized sweatshirt and sweats or shorts. I do own fuzzy line Crocs that my teammates make fun of me for, so if you wear those, or Uggs, but I wouldn't say fashion dictates who I am. It's more of how I carry myself. I feel like I'm a very confident person, so yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. What has been like the peak in your life so far, whether it's been with your volleyball career, your life in general? I know just seeing fans wear your jersey, that's really like inspired you and made you feel like seen. But has there been like a specific moment that really changed your perspective on things at all?
That's a good question. I feel like something new happens in my life all the time, and that's always the biggest moment of my life, to be honest. I would say this year's probably been a big influence on me just because of our team is stacked, especially in my position. So there have been matches where I haven't played, and I'm not used to that at all. So I feel like trying to dive into my faith more and realize that I am more than just an athlete if I play or don't play. At the end of the day, like, the 6 years from now when no one's going to look back on the stat line and define that as me. So I feel like just trying to learn that.
Yeah, of course. How do you usually deal with wins and losses?
I would say I'm pretty chill. I would say I get more angry when we lose and I'm frustrated. But I would say wins, like, I'm usually pretty happy, but I'm never satisfied. So I'm always trying to look for some sort of edge or something to work on or something to get better at.
Okay. Do you practice in your own time to kind of master your skill, or do you guys practice enough where you know?
Yeah, so we practice every day for about 2 or 3 hours, but I also go in the gym on my own
Okay.
and try and develop my skills more.
How has just being an athlete in general kind of changed your everyday life? I know like a lot of people talk about how mental health like is important for physical, but how do you see physical as important for your mental?
Yeah, I think movement is medicine in general. I feel like people my age don't work out enough because it's so beneficial for them. I feel like your just overall mood and energy, endorphins, and whatever else that makes you happy and gets you going, I think is really stemmed from working out and exercising. And I feel like I said, movement is medicine. So,
So, what advice would you give your 13-year-old self if they were standing in front of you?
ooh, dream big because you have no idea where it can take you. I would have never thought at 13 that I'd be playing volleyball at the University of Wisconsin. I wasn't tall enough, I wasn't big enough, I wasn't strong enough. So I would say just dream big.
Speaking of, since you're at the University of Wisconsin, what is your major? What are you going towards?
Yeah, I am biology pre-med right now.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's good. What do you hope to do with that? Like, what exact title do you want to have?
Yeah, when I'm done here in December, I want to play professional for as long as I can. But after that, I have aspirations to go to medical school. I've always dreamed of becoming a doctor, especially a pediatrician. I love working with kids and finding something new to do every single day and just being a leader. And I also just love chemistry and biology, so it's very intriguing to me.
Awesome. Have you worked with kids in the past that made you want to do it today?
Yeah, we worked camps every summer, and I've worked camps all throughout high school, so just being able to teach kids and work with them and see their eyes light up, I think is so motivating.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, my last question for you is, how do you want to be remembered?
Ooh, we actually discussed this year as a team. All of the seniors discussed what they want their mark to be left on this program, and I'll give the same answer. I want my work ethic to be seen. I want people to look back and realize that I was the hardest worker. I never slacked off any practice, any point, any drill, and I just worked. So
Yeah, how was that feeling, just being, the Final Four and being the last two teams and just like showing that up for your school as well, just being that inspiration?
it's definitely a surreal moment. I mean, that's what I've dreamed of ever since I started playing college volleyball. Obviously, we fell short last year. The goal is this year to be farther, but it's a really cool experience, and hopefully we'll get back there.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I hope you guys do get back there this year, and good luck throughout the season.
Thank you. Thank you.